So we will call to order. We need to approve minutes from last meeting. They're posted on the Google Drive. I hope everyone had a chance to review. Is there any motions to approve minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, so moved with the necessary corrections.
Thank you, Melody. Any seconds? Graham seconds. Okay. All in favor of approving last meeting's minutes from January 31st?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
aye.
Yeah.
Those who oppose? All right. Motion passes. They are approved. Status update from chairs. So obviously we have moved to WebEx. So this is a way that people can log in and watch our meetings, even though we're not in person right now. So we just want to make sure that we are always complying with that open meeting law. So this will be our platform moving forward. Does anyone have any questions on the WebEx stuff? You all made it on, so it looks like you have a handle on it so far. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Larry, can't hear you.
Oh, Jan, do you want to send him another thing to unmute?
Got it.
Okay. Everyone else is good?
I have a question. If the public is watching, do we know that they're watching? Does it tell us?
Looks like we have one visitor on now. We just have to like recognize like whose name like is not like a commissioner. But there's no like separation really.
Okay, we're going to be joined at some point with my assistant at New York Law School, Marissa Zanfordino. So you'll know that name. Or I gave her the link you gave me, so I imagine she'll be on that way.
Yeah, perfect. And we will make sure that she's added to any of the like big group
Great.
emails. I think Jihan put her on the email list.
Yeah.
Okay. So this way we're complying with everything that we need to be for open meetings. John, anything to add on WebEx? Jihan, anything? Okay.
One question is that we don't have a full complement, and I'm wondering whether we could check up and find out whether people had problems getting on to WebEx, and that was the reason they couldn't attend. Just to do some follow-up to make sure no one falls through the cracks.
I think that's wise, Bruce. So we'll take, Jihan is doing inventory of who's here. So anyone who is not here, we'll just send an email, just checking in, seeing how everything's going, and if there's any barriers to them, whether it's platform-based or if it was just scheduling. So that's a good idea. We will put that on Jihan's list of things to do. Perfect. Okay. Website and social media. John, Jihan, and I met with Ruthnie from City Hall, and she runs like all of like their socials and like builds their websites and things like that. So she was talking to us about getting our website and all of our information onto the city website and having a page just for us, where it's actually really, really cool. Like they're in the transition point of making a new website for themselves for the city. But the new website, like you can like click on our commission, you would see all the videos that like we have recorded or any minutes that we have and people can look at them right there. They can see any information that we have. So I think there's a follow-up meeting in 2 weeks with Jihan just to go over some of that tech stuff. So then they're going to put all the basic information on the website, and then Jihan will be able to have access to adding things to the website. So that's pretty cool. And she gave us some good information about just like with social media, thinking about like a hashtag. And she said that she thinks that the ones that usually are best are like things that are calls to action. So whether it's like show up or let's redistrict, it kind of talks about like what you're wanting people to do and like is related to what it is that you're all about. So we're gonna play around with a couple of those, and if anyone is savvy with this sort of thing, we'd love ideas. There is the social media folder on the Google Drive for ideas for posts and things like that. But when we were thinking about it, it was mostly like what we want from the public is just to show up to these, the public meetings that we're going to be having. So that was the main thing that I had thought of. Shihan, anything you wanted to add on this?
Not that I can think of, not anything now.
Okay, great. Then you're good, John. Perfect. All right, so open issues then. It looks like we have Jackie just joined and Melody. If you could give us your update with the first public meetings and their locations, whatever new information that you have.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that when I joined, first of all, they called me Babette, and I said, okay, he doesn't know who I am, even though my name was on there. He never made the correction that it was not Babette, that it was Melody Holmes on there. And we were not on the agenda. And so I had to stay on for the entire TNT meeting, and then only was able to interact with them when it came to announcements. So at the announcements, I was able to talk a lot about who we are. I gave the information, the contact information. I did not name who the commissioners were, but I said I gave them the phone number and the email address and the website information. So I gave them the dates of the meetings and really, really strongly encouraged them to come to the meetings, and hopefully we'll get some feedback or some attendance. But I did not get a lot of questions. Only one person asked questions, and I again shared the information on how to come on board and listen to us or come be a part of us. So that was it.
Okay.
Cool. How many
Thank
people
you.
attended the meeting?
You see what we go through, that's every month. So thank you so much for backing our, the voting proposition, because I don't think we were even on the agenda. I looked on there, and he was kind of making it where we didn't even have time to roll out. And I really had to jump into the WIT meeting, which we'll have again tonight at the school board. But in retrospect, I mean, we can just make up somewhat of a flyer and maybe put it on TNT's website, because it's nice to roll it out to them. It's complicated here. We don't necessarily need their permission to go forward. Would you agree?
We were only able to make the agendas for some of the TNT meetings, and some of the TNT meetings we're just going to have to jump in at the end, like Melody did. That's.
I'm going to tell you this, that there was not. Go ahead.
Well, as I say, Jan, was it 2 or 3 meetings we actually made the agenda for?
Yeah, later.
Yeah, because they said we got in too late, which, having been to a number of TNT meetings, I really find that surprising that they've got such
Right, exactly. Is it ever too late? I mean, really.
Right. Yeah.
I'm being facetious,
I know. Well, I just want to go back a little bit. What Molly was originally talking about, but I'm glad we talked about the TNT meetings, was the dates and locations of our public meetings. And right now, we're scheduled to be March 18th, and we're going to have that one at ITC, which is Central Tech. March 26th is going to be at Fowler. April 7th is going to be at Henninger. April 24th will be at Corcoran. And the last public meeting will be April 28th at Nottingham High School. These are all high schools. And this week, Wednesday, I'm gonna stay home. Jihan is gonna go to Fowler and meet with my wife, and hopefully they're gonna set up a projector and speakers and broadcast me from home, and hopefully we'll see how these are gonna work out at the schools, how the internet works, and hopefully we don't
Smart.
jumpy. It'll be just a test run for our public meetings, and if it works at one high school, fingers crossed, it'll work at all the high schools. So this Wednesday is going to be our test run for that. So just wanted to give
That's
everybody.
smart. Thank you, John, for that. That's very smart. I got a question though. Did we, as we move into the March 18th meeting, which would be our first one, we want all our T's crossed and our I's dotted. Do we know have we heard from the police department on security? I may have missed that memo. I may have missed that email, but I was just wondering if we got that in place. And I'm going to be honest and tell you, I have been walking around and talking to people, and the interest is exceptionally weak. Okay, I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but I haven't received a lot of interest or got back a lot of feedback on people who are interested in this. But I know from past experiences that what's going to happen is there's going to be some feedback or on why didn't we hear about this? So I want to know what we need to do to waylay that in the beginning. What can we do to make sure that, we put it out there? Obviously, social media and this is not going to be enough. What else do we need to do?
Melody,
And I'm not talking about just the TNT3. I'm talking about talking to people all across. The interest is low. But what's happened is once people get into it and they realize that redistricting, oh, that's what that is. There's going to be, why haven't I heard about this? And I'm hearing, and I'm looking at my sister over there, and she's like, yep, that's true. That's what happens. That's what happens from Brenda. So we need to know what it is we need to do to be proactive in that. If we know that's what's going to happen, what do we need to do?
Let me ask, what are the, let's say, half a dozen or whatever number of best mass contacts? Is there a central parent-teacher association? Are there major church organizations? Looking at the city top down, are there a half dozen major contacts you can reach out to and ask them to start, that will provide them with the material, but can they promote this to their networks?
we have a list started after last meeting when we discussed this. There's a list started in Google Drive where everyone needs to be adding resources of who we can go to further promote this. So I think that it's good to continue to look into that. And then, I think it will have to be a shared effort on, who takes, what outlet and how we want to get our message across. What message are we getting across? So Jeff, what resources should we be giving out to community members?
I mean, I will go ahead and contact the reporters at Syracuse.com that I know. But I'll do what I can there, and I'll talk to everyone else I know countywide who can help. I'll do my part for those few I do know in the media.
Can I ask a question? And thank you, Jeff, for that. That's going to be a really important piece. But I want to know, do we have a budget for media, or are we just doing it all as free as we can?
We have really no extra money outside of
Okay.
set aside for some meetings, and even that's not very much, which is why we've had security is one of the issues if you look on your agenda that we're discussing tonight. But we didn't really have money to do that or to rent like the audio equipment, which is why we're relying on schools' audio equipment, all of that. We don't have a budget for this.
But what does the city do itself regularly to promote what the city does? Do they have a weekly newsletter? Do they have a city website? Are there things without costing a penny? Just ask them or give them material to please use this. It'll help them fill up their space. Maybe if we can find out what they do regularly. I mean, in the city where I live, they have an app, they have regular mailings they put out on what's going on. Um,
Now, that's a good idea, Jeff, to put it on a mailing, to dates with the mailing and add it to a mailing that they're already generating and putting out. I don't know if that's possible, but I would be an advocate for them to do that, to put this on a regular mailing if they have something going. Like the mayor puts out his stuff, there's waste management stuff, there's all kind of things. And just to add us to that would be a really,
I'm going to
powerful
stay on
thing.
the call, but hop over to the Syracuse government website and just see, like, follow us, get on our mailing list. I'll just go quickly do that, and let you know if I find
Okay.
anything.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm on the website right now. Jihan, the next common council meeting before our first public meeting is on February 28th. And Helen Hudson, the president of the common council, was definitely interested in being notified. So maybe this week we'll send her an email saying, hey, here's here's a listing of our public meetings. But if you would make a public announcement at the February 28th Common Council meeting, they do that. She
Right.
can memorialize the fact that we're having our first public meeting at that meeting. The city of Syracuse does Twitter to make announcements. That's how I found out they weren't picking up my recycling today. The city doesn't do mass mailings except once or twice a year when the water's bad, or they mail out the thing saying when your trash is going to be picked up and when you can put out your Christmas tree and stuff. We don't get a lot of postcards weekly from the city proper. But there are options in the city's tagging onto the city's social media to get out there. Also, we can petition your friend Andrew Donovan. Maybe he can put us on Newsmakers. We'll get a couple volunteers from the commission to go on his show and talk about redistricting. He's always looking for people to be on the show.
I'll contact him. Sure. I'm looking at the website now. I see about at least a dozen boxes of rezone Syracuse dog licenses, Greater Syracuse Land Bank, snow safety. Certainly, they can fit a box in Syracuse. I'm sorry, redistricting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've asked Jeff prior to us even hiring you when we first got our phone number. We asked for a box on that page,
Okay,
and
well,
they haven't done it yet. So maybe we need to just be a little louder.
yeah, I would guess maybe they forgot.
I just want to clarify
You're
that
kind.
I do want to clarify that the meeting with Ruthnie at the end of last week, Friday, she was, she was very careful. She was like, I don't want to step on any toes. I know that you guys are very independent. I just want to make sure that your work and your message is getting out there. So it was truly about getting us more exposure. And she has an action item of getting us set up on that website within 2 weeks. So
Who is she, Molly, if I might ask? I'm not clear on that.
excuse
Who
me?
is she?
She is the social media person.
She's like the director of communications for the city.
Okay.
So, and honestly, the website stuff, the social media stuff, the going to these people that we have listed for press exposure, and honestly, these TNT meetings, I'm very grateful that you guys have signed up to go to some of them. I know it's not, especially if you're not on the agenda, it might kind of stink a little bit to stay that whole time, but these are the people who are showing up to the meetings throughout the community and who really care, and so they're more likely like our target audience that would come to one of our meetings. So I do think that it's I don't want to undermine.
I'm gonna just put something out there. I used to be the TNT Sector 3 coordinator for years. And one of the biggest things that we tried to do was try to get people not only to come to meetings, but also be involved in things that were going on in that area. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be a little blunt and tell you that people only came when it directly affected, and I hate to seem so territorial, but when it affected their block or when it affected something so it was not a meeting that you came to for general FYI. You were looking for something. You were looking for something that had to do with your area. So I'm just saying, I don't know how we can sell this. I say all that to say, how can we sell this that, it affects you? I mean, I know it and other people know it, but are we going to get on board with it? I mean, I'm thinking of someone very, very specifically who always says at meetings, this is the first I've ever heard of this. And that person has a great following. So I'm just saying, just put it out there. What is it that we can do? Okay, I hear crickets. All right.
Well, we're trying, Melody. We're really, I mean, we've had meetings where we put stuff out there. We'll obviously do press releases. We can't force people to print our press releases or do stories on them though.
Right.
Jihan was told by Syracuse.com that until you actually do something, until you produce a map, you're not very sexy. You guys are just, you haven't shown us anything, so you're not newsworthy right now. So
let me just put this out there, and I think that one of the things we may want to go is through interreligious, either the Interreligious Consortium or the or Interfaith Works or any organization like that that has a broad base of community input. If you look at the Interfaith Works, they have several. And several is not the word. I'm going to say they have a myriad of organizations that they deal with, not only on their boards, but on the work that they do and the different things that to get a little blurb together to say, this is happening, people. This is what we're doing. I know we're used to social media. But if we want this to work for us, we got to think a little bit outside the box. Okay, Melody has stopped talking now. I just wanted to put that out.
All right. Bruce, I see you. I just want to address Melody and then we'll move on to Bruce. Melody, I think that's a good idea. If you could take all of that and condense it down into contact information and put it on that Google Drive document for the media and press that we're going to continue to try to reach out to. Whatever contact information that we need for the Interfaith Works would be great. Thank you. It's a good idea.
Okay.
Question. I've probably asked this before, but how active is the League of Women Voters in Syracuse?
Well, I'm a member, and I'm going to say it's active, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's tight. It's not really as broad as you think it is, simply because of well, it's just tight. Let's put it that way.
And I will ask Susan Lerner at Common Cause. I don't know what her mailing list is like in the city, but if she has one or she can target a mailing into her city mailing list, I will follow up and ask.
Babette, are you a member of the League of Women Voters? I'm sorry, I thought Babette was on here.
I am on. I am not, but I know someone who is. Oh, Super is, I do believe.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can tell you the space and the place that I'm coming from. What I've been doing is I have been giving people the heads up that this is coming. And the individuals I have spoken to, I know are part of citywide organizations, like grassroots organizations. And so I've been having that conversation. What I will also do is I know some people who are connected with OCDC, and I know that they can get folks to come out. And so what I've been doing is, especially like within the new American and immigrant community, I've been reaching out to those leaders to let them know these meetings are going to happen. Someone needs to represent your community there so they can get the word out once they come to the meeting.
What about the school board, Tony? Is that Tony I'm hearing? Yeah. What about, can we have an announcement at the school board meeting? That's what I'm saying. Or is that not proper? See, I don't know.
When there's a public notice on a local law, is there a list to maintain for that, or is it just published in a few newspapers? Required public notice as part of the lawmaking process.
Is that all we can do as a public notice? We can't have somebody go up to the mic at a school board meeting and.
No, I'm asking the question, as you asked about
Oh,
lists. This is Jerry Benjamin. There's a public notice process that's required in law. So somebody must maintain a list or a process for putting out that kind of information. Is that included in what's been discussed, or is that still available as a resource?
Our public notices go out on the city website. If you go to syrgov.net, there's a calendar, and our meeting and the link, the actual WebEx link, is actually listed on the city's website. That's how we've been doing the public notices for these meetings.
No, I'm referencing if you're making a local law, you have to have a public meeting a certain number of days before the law is taken up in the city council. And that notice has, historically, that notice had to be placed in certain specified media. But more recently, there's been some changes in some locations, and there are other outlets for it. I'm just wondering what outlets are used. Have we already discussed those, or is there some way to find that out?
The only place that we have been told by city auditor is that we just have to announce on the city website, put it on the calendar. So that has sufficed to this point. We've not done anything else.
I'm just thinking about augmenting. I'm not talking about requirements now. I'm just thinking about lists that might be available.
I've done work with the New York Immigration Coalition, and I think, Tony, you mentioned the immigration groups. Has anyone worked with the New York Immigration Coalition in Onondaga County? They have an office or a staff person there. No? Okay, I'll reach out to them. And also the Central New York Community Foundation. Any contacts there? I'll take that one on.
Jeff, if you could list all of this stuff right on that Google Doc as well, just so we know like what things we're all looking at. I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
All
Bruce,
right.
yes, go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. The 2 points that John raised. One was we can't sell something we haven't created yet, and I think that's true. But he also used the word sexy. How do we make what we do sexy? And without trying to get into a food fight with the county, I think that the distinction between what we're trying to do and what the county has done, and in fact how states have dealt with their responsibilities, is worth getting emotional about. And the contrast, I think, would be great fodder for newspapers. Without, again, being too confrontational, it seems to me that there's something we could sell here once we have something to sell in terms of the difference that we have as a commission. That's all I'm wanting to say.
Hi, this is Babette. I can reach out. I couldn't, for some reason, it wouldn't let me unmute myself. I have a lot of contacts at the Community Foundation. I know Peter and Frank and all those guys over there very well. So if you just tell me what you want me to do with them, I can reach out to them.
Well, the
and also at Allen and John Ben Snow and at Gifford.
Yeah, the Community Foundation had a major interest in the census, and they are part of a statewide group called the New York Census Equity Fund that is trying to promote fair redistricting. I'm not quite sure right now who the contact there is. I'll double check, but that group had funded me to go up working through the New York Immigration Coalition 3 years ago to work on a census outreach effort in the city. So I'll try to get the right name of who to talk to.
I just want to, if I may, the last idea is very important. There's a life and death struggle going on right now for control of the Congress, which will determine the direction of the United States for a decade. And there's a major process going on in Albany that's quite controversial in its unfolding and its already outcomes, although it's a long story and the equities are quite complicated and shared. The bad news, the bad people who are doing bad things are quite widespread, as well as those who are trying to do the thing. But the bottom line is, we're involved in a struggle for democracy. You're modeling best practice. Now, I can't say that that's unsellable. We'll soon have maps where we're modeling best practice, and we're struggling for democracy. And in Syracuse, we're going to demonstrate how democracy ought to work when it comes to representation. That's a big story, in my opinion. I tend to get a little excited about that.
But Jerry is correct, and I'd be glad to, having worked at the national and state level recently on redistricting, I could, if help work on some kind of a script to say that and put it into our messaging. And that picks up on Susan Lerner talking about how Syracuse could be the model for New York State on how to effectively redraw district lines.
I love that.
And
That's such a good
You
idea.
will have maps from Josh pretty soon. I mean, it's not way over the mountain.
I want to draw attention. There's some chat going on in our chat box because our guest here watching our meeting is part of press. And so it looks like we have a resource already, which is excellent. So let's continue to have these conversations. And this, I just think that it's important to everyone. Like all of us just like want to get more people to the meetings. And so it's just something I think we'll probably talk about at every single meeting that we have moving forward. It's just
I just saw that Scott Willis joined us from WAER, and welcome aboard, Scott. And we'd love to have you cover what this, maybe do a whole series on redistricting. Why does it matter? What's it all about? Why you should care? Why it can change
It's
your
going to be
community?
so important, Jessica. It's going to be so important. Thank you.
yes, thank you so much.
Also, there's a ton of videos on YouTube that are no more than 5 minutes on the importance of redistricting and what it does. I think maybe we should load one of those on our YouTube page. I mean, our Facebook page.
Charles, that's a good idea. We actually need to put a list of resources on so people can do that. Yes.
You know, I'm sorry, but I've been a professor so long, it's hard to stop me from talking. But I was interviewed by a journalist in the national media recently, and this guy asked me, well, how important is this redistricting? And I said, it's life or death for democracy in America. He says, is it more important than 9/11? I said, absolutely more important than 9/11. 9/11 was external enemies. This is an internal enemy. People who are trying to destroy democracy. And you're on the line demonstrating how to do it right. That's a big deal to me.
Great.
I've been looking, Tony Tolbert, who wasn't able to join us tonight, he's having computer problems, but he did draft, I don't know if he sent it to everybody or just Molly and I, his letter to the editor. Did you all have a chance to see that? I believe he submitted it to Syracuse.com. They have not published it yet, but he does a nice job explaining about how we're citizens and how we're going to be going about redistricting, and if we'll have to share it with everybody. If I was kind of hoping they'd put it in the paper maybe on Sunday, but they chose not to. But hopefully at some point they'll publish it, because he does a nice job explaining about what we're about and what we're trying to do.
Does it make sense if we need some eye candy before we actually have any drafts of maps to short, even if it's just on our social media, like to share some of the maps that were generated by the gentleman last week, just starting to show like the demographics, just to get people kind of interested, because I thought those were kind of interesting and just kind of intriguing, and it starts to get people's wheels turning a little bit and maybe start to see why there is an importance in the communities of interest and whatnot.
Willis is our in-house check on that. In fact, if he thinks as a journalist it's news, then it's news.
They might need to be formatted a little bit. I could help out with that just to make them something, simple and clickable, or a storyboard of sorts of just different types of things that we're starting to look at so people can kind of follow us along in the process.
Colleen, I like your idea of making it more like a storyboard. That may also get some interest as well if it comes
Right.
across the spirit. Yeah, I like that, because I think one of the things that, as I look at our there's a certain level of education that we assume is available, and that's not always the case.
Right.
People are voters, but they may necessarily be, educated individuals. So we just have to be aware that we're as inclusive as possible. Thank you for that. That's smart. I like that storyboard idea.
I think so maybe can we create a resource page off our website so that all this stuff is in one place? The FAQs, the storyboard, the links to the videos, all that stuff is in one place, so people don't have to keep looking, don't have to look for it on separate places. Because Melody, I agree with you. Just because doesn't mean you're part of an informed electorate about how things work, right?
Mhm.
We just go in and we pull the lever or whatever. It doesn't mean we understand all the
Exactly.
politics that go
Yeah.
around with it or anything.
And this is so important, as I was saying at the TNT meeting. I said, you have to understand how important this redistricting process is and what it will mean. And so, and again, I got crickets because I was like, oh, okay. So yeah.
I'm wondering that letter from Tony, the editor's letter, can we recirculate it the press, the urban news? You're right, CNY.com is complicated. We did a few debates and they seem to just kind of want the bigger fish, the conflict we find, those kind of things, as opposed to the process, which is a problem. But does urban news kind of have the access to that same editorial? Maybe they could, or do we need to make another kind of news for them, to put out?
Is Dan Cummings still with Channel 9? And I'm just saying that is he still there, or has he retired?
He retired.
Oh no, he retired. Right, he retired. You're right. I was at his retirement. You're right.
He was very, very interested in anything to do with community stuff, and and I did a couple shows with him that had to do with police and that type of thing, and so, and I'm talking about, he would give half-hour shows, and I don't know if anybody took his place with that, but this is very worth a half-hour show.
What about the bridge? Have we reached out? Remember the bridge, that local, I think Spectrum does it, which is a local news. Have anybody seen that?
Bridge Street.
Bridge Street. Bridge Street.
But Andrew Donovan took over for Dan Cummings.
You guys are really fading in and out as far as hearing you. It's really.
Oh, okay. I'm having a problem with my computer, but I know that Andrew Donovan took over for Dan Cummings, didn't he?
Yeah.
Brenda, you're on two sites and you're echoing.
Can you mute one of her? The one that doesn't have the camera on. Can you mute that, Brenda? Okay, go ahead, Brenda.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking that Andrew Donovan was the one that took over for Dan Cummings.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they were very community minded, and so
yes.
I mean, this is a half-hour show.
Melanie. What
okay.
about Melanie? Remember that lady, the young lady that does the Sunday?
The reporter,
Melanie,
the news anchor.
yes.
Melanie, yeah, Melanie Johnson, I think is her name.
Johnson, yes.
Mm-hmm.
She goes. I'm with Onondaga Vote, so she did facilitate one of the debates. I'm wondering, like, something that wouldn't be awkward, where you kind of can sit and kind of she asks you the questions, kind of thing.
I mean, it's worth a shot if we were just to do a little quick ad hoc committee and look at all these media, these TV media personalities, and would they be willing to just allot a half an hour or so to what it is that we're trying to do?
Are you
Just
are
a
you
thought.
volunteering to be the head of a subcommittee?
Uh-oh, there you go. You always putting me in the.
Well,
But Melody, I
a
think
lot
it
of
would be good for
ideas,
you.
and we need someone
Yeah.
who follows up on it. And so, like, we can brainstorm all day long about different
Yeah.
things we want to do.
Right.
We need to put
I
action
could,
items at the end of them. So I do think
agreed,
that's a good
agreed.
idea, and you guys have wonderful ideas. And so I'd like for, a few of you to, just run with it then.
Yeah,
Formalize
maybe
this.
Melody and I mean, I have no problem with reaching out to the contacts, but I've been in the news a bit, not in a negative way, but we're, dealing with the food desert thing. So I don't want to mix the two because suddenly here I am again. So I nominate Babette and Melody or Tony or
Do you know?
and I can reach out to our contacts because I'll have an Onondaga vote meeting on, I believe it's Thursday, and whoever, I know she's through whatever sorority, get that contact because she's pretty good at kind of asking the questions that are relatable to the community, as well as Bridge Street. Bridge Street, that's more of a sit down.
Yeah,
Gotta
Bridge
call
Street.
Bridge Street,
I've been
yeah.
on there. They're good too. Are they still on Bridge Street?
They are.
They
Yes.
are. Okay.
So it looks like Babette is interested in taking the lead on this.
Yes.
No, 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 no. That's not what I
Well,
put in
one or
the
the
chat. I do not
We
like
were
being
nominated. We did not
abused.
accept the nomination.
I do not accept the nomination. What I said was, is I would take the lead on the libraries are now open since the county, everybody's like lifting their mask mandate and whatnot. The libraries are now available. Most of them have meeting rooms. So if we set some dates, I can take the lead on making sure we can use some of the libraries for some of the meetings.
I would be more than glad to, if Babette does that piece, which I'm sure she'll do an excellent job at, I would be more than willing to just contact the TV stations and just see, what TV shows are available. Remember, there used to be those TV shows that come on Sunday morning, they tape them, and then they play that Sunday morning. Because I'm not a big TV watcher, I don't know if that's still available. I know Dan Cummings was one, and Jackie Robinson was one, and
And Melody is pretty good, and I can reach out to Kirkpatrick. Is that his name? Fitzpatrick? I
but
always
George
get
is
the
in
name wrong.
TV.
Sure. He does radio, yeah.
Right. So I was just thinking specifically TV because I know that they have community shows. So Molly, yeah, let me do it. I just need a reminder. I'm kind of busy but I tend to, if I'm busy, I tend to get it done and take it off my plate. So.
Yeah. And I'll shoot her an email tonight and then just use your email address.
Yeah, you can use my email address.
And Melody, in the chat,
Yes.
Charles said he would work with you to help you do that. He said he'll assist with the
Oh,
meeting.
Who?
yes.
Charles?
Charles Anderson?
No.
No, myself, Jackson.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Charles. I didn't know because I
You
don't
don't
see a
have your
picture,
face
so I
on.
didn't know he
That's
was
right.
on. Okay.
And we got a problem with media. Media kind of wants to, if it leads, it bleeds. If it bleeds, it leads. And this is important, and we don't want people to be confused about the debacle with the legislative redistricting. So you would be great.
And Colleen, your interest in mapping, that's going to be crucial.
Yeah, I was just writing, I could just take a stab at formatting some of the graphics to make them simple and readable, and then we can use them in whatever capacity. If they need tweaks after people review them or whatever, but I have the programs that could do that.
So I will contact, what is our stations, 3, 5, and 9 in WCNY. Okay, I can commit to doing that.
And New
see
York
if we can get, yeah.
Oh, go on Time Warner Spectrum. They have local news show too.
I can commit to 3, 5, and 9 in WCNY.
So in your group emails, could you just loop Jihan in on this, just so that, because things usually come to her and that way she'll be the connection to everything else. So if you could just, and that would be perfect.
So my charge is just to see if we can get on a TV show, right? Because that's the question I'm going to ask.
Is that
Is
good
it,
with
is it
everyone?
available for us to get on a TV show to talk about redistricting?
Or if they could, yeah, if they could do a story on our commission.
Right. Not a
now,
story, because it's TV. We're
segment.
asking
What
for
is that,
TV
like a
time,
P?
are we not?
Right. So
Okay.
once Melody does this and Babette sets up the meeting for the subcommittee and all of that kind of stuff, and like someone gives us a green light, who's do the interview or whatever? Like we still have not designated like one set person. You know, John and I were doing them at first, but there was this, you know, this call that that you guys wanted other faces to, you know, to be advocating and presenting for us. So, who would like to kind of take on these first few things that we're gonna get just as soon as, you know, Melody makes these calls, we're gonna get a bite. Who's gonna be willing to like reel them in?
I don't have a problem with doing any of the interviews. My only thing is, regardless if it's myself or anybody else, I think we should have talking points. I think we should have like a rigid like space so that so no matter who's saying it, we're repeating the exact same thing so no one can be confused or anyone can say, hey, y'all said this, but now you're saying that.
Right. And I think we were going to build off of some of those FAQs, but Jeff, is that a resource that I think we've asked before, but like we weren't really ready to run yet. Is that a resource that you have for us on like a set kind of talking points kind of thing?
Well, I will do one based on the Syracuse law.
Okay.
About maybe 10 questions, short answers.
Okay. So we're gonna follow up with you, Jeff, to get once Melody gets everything scheduled and Charles is about to go on air. We're gonna make sure that we have all the resources.
You're funny.
And Jeff, we actually started something. So we already started some FAQs with some general information about what we're doing. It doesn't have, it's not specifically on the Syracuse law, but it does have some, like I think Jahan dropped in our meeting dates. So whenever who's talking to the press, they can like, you know, and our meeting dates are this is how you find our webpage, our social media, blah, 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 blah.
But I also want to include this, and I want to be as inclusive as possible. I would love to have Gerald and Bruce included in all of this, because we have to look at the who we're trying to talk to and who we're trying to get this information out to. And I've listened to them, and they have some wonderful insight. I don't want to leave you out in the bush. You know what I'm saying? Come on in.
I like.
So is it okay if I reach out to you, because I know that you have different, you know, resources?
Melody, you know who else is good? Graham is really good too. I love listening to Graham talk about this stuff.
Yeah, Gerald is Mr. You're muted.
Gerald, you could try to unmute yourself. I just sent you the request.
He's still talking, but he's muted. Oh, I want to hear what he has to say.
Gerald, I just sent you the request to unmute yourself. It should pop up. Let me know if you get it.
Okay. We'll circle back around
Hi.
to.
I get a little hot, but indulge me. We have people lying nationally and internationally about the election. This is not partisan. These are facts. We have people who try to keep other people from voting. You know, we have Congress divided absolutely in half. With the country, what's in store is the country is going to be run by the same people, or different people from the same side, or different people from the other side, and it's very tight and close. And it's one of the most crisis-filled moments in the history of American politics. Now, I've taught this subject for 50 years, and it's the scariest moment for me, outside of threat of nuclear war, like in the Kennedy confrontation of Khrushchev, but talking about politically. And you're doing the most important job, which is trying to get people fairly voting. It's the most important job to save democracy and keep it buck. And we ought to be able to say that in a way that doesn't look like we're having a psychological breakdown. We're recognizing the importance of it.
I think there's a.
So
there's
let
a
me
reason for
try
us
to talk to Jeff, and I'll see if I can write something brief about this.
There's a reason for us to be, Gerald was talking about it, emotional about this. Again, without necessarily trying to make it into a food fight, we have the higher moral ground of an argument that is incredibly important. And so if we insist that this is important and ought to be a part of news stories and agenda items for groups, it's tough for them to look at the news and say, no, it's unimportant, because they know it is important. I just think it's more difficult to do that without hard, some sort of map, which is why Colleen's idea about at least broaching the tentative maps we've gotten as a springboard for a discussion is important. But I'm just saying this is not an unemotional topic. We're
Right,
doing
right.
political God's work, as it were.
And I think, if I can be blunt here, I think redistricting had a direct impact on whether CACO decided to run again. He
Agreed.
did the change.
I just had a meeting
Mhm.
earlier. That's
Yeah.
the absolute fact.
Okay.
Mhm.
I went
So I will,
that
I
struggle
want,
from the Voting Rights Act going to 1964. This is the culmination of, this is the moment of culmination this year of a struggle that's been going on enormous length of time. Okay, I'm sorry.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I think there's,
I'm out of time.
well, Jerry, regardless of if you're our poster boy in interviews, I do hope that you will record some of these and we will use them as pep talks before our public meetings because it's very inspiring. And this is what it's good reminders of what it is that we're doing. And I think we're all in agreement. So we have a little task force that's going to be working on this. As before we move on, Colleen, as an action item for you, could you just like check in with Josh and partner with him a little bit on those maps? Just because I don't want to post some of those things without context. So just
Right. Yeah, and I don't even know if what we have access to right now, so I might have to reach out to him anyways. And then yeah, I feel like it's not going to be too controversial because it's just hard data that we're presenting. But yeah, you're right. I'll work directly with him.
perfect. Thank you so much. I think that this is a good start. So we'll go from there. We have to move along. So Jihan, can you just give us a brief update on, Melody had asked about the security at the meetings. It's the next item on the list. What have you heard?
Yeah, so I contacted Chief Schaff about the officers. John suggested some officer names, and for Camp 415. So once we have the exact times, we can just send it over and he can see what officers he has available and let us know. But he seems very willing to work with us.
I will give you the direct contact for Officer Camp 415 because the other sides are covered, but we definitely don't want to overlook something that they're crucial for, at least I would say South Side. I don't know about the others. As far as 415, because I can can I give you the contact number, Jahan?
Yes, you can send it to me, or I'll email you.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Meeting logistics. John talked on this briefly, the little test run that's going to happen this week, testing some of the equipment. So John, do you want to just speak more to that and, pose any questions or anything that you have for the group?
Sure. I believe we'll know a lot better after Wednesday how this is going to go. the schools themselves, and if we end up in the libraries, probably we'll have projectors and speakers available, smart boards or stuff that we can use. We just got to give them advance notice of that. What we're doing Wednesday is testing the stuff at Fowler. Because I have an inside track there, we're going to have access to their projector and their speakers and that stuff. And some of that stuff might be able to travel to our other meetings. If they're not using it, and chances are they won't be, because the rest of our public meetings are in the evening or not, or on the weekends. So at the very least, we should have access to most of the stuff we need to do this. And Jihan and my wife and I are going to test and make sure that it works on a big scale Wednesday. So I'll have an update for you at our next meeting to tell you how that went. And if it didn't go well, then we'll be hitting the panic button to figure out we're going to do it. But it will be done before March 8th on our first meeting. We'll have
Okay, John, you said something about libraries. Is that where they expect us to meet, in the libraries? Or are we going to, I thought we were going to use the auditoriums, no?
No, we're going to meet in the schools. We're going to either be in the cafeterias or the auditoriums.
Okay, okay.
Our next set of public meetings probably would be better suited to be in libraries, because the schools are kind of locked up during the summer. Yeah, they have summer school and stuff, but so if we can get into the libraries for our next set of public meetings, that would probably be best for us. This year. But I'm thinking way too far ahead. I'm only concerned about the first 5 public meetings that are happening in the schools right now, because that's going to take us through the end of April, and we'll cover the other 5 in May. Okay.
Okay.
So now, just a heads up, I haven't checked it in a while, but I have a projector and I also have speakers, but
Fantastic.
they're like big, huge speakers, but one will suffice. So what I will do is I will find my projector, and I forget how to sync it with a laptop, but I'll try to figure that out in the next week, just in case as a backup.
Okay. Fantastic. That's awesome, Charles. I appreciate it, and that's going to help us immensely, because our budget is very small for these first 5 public meetings. So any help we can get is appreciated.
Okay. Jeff or Gerald, did you have anything that you wanted to be able to bring up while you have us all here that feels important to discuss with us?
I just wanted to ask if the memorandum we prepared on the open meetings law has been distributed. Everyone has a copy of it?
Yes.
Jihan sent it out.
Okay.
Everybody.
Yeah, outside of that, just current events. So you know, a lawsuit has been filed against the state, the new congressional and state Senate map. That's going to be in state Supreme Court in Steuben County, alleging first that the state legislature didn't have the authority to pick up on redistricting after the implosion of the state commission, and secondly, that the Senate and congressional lines are partisan gerrymanders in violation of a state constitutional provision.
Wow.
So just in case it comes up, because that's getting all the press right now, and you should just be, aware of that. If you have any questions on it, I'd be glad to explain, what the challenges are all about, what I think of them. But that's happening now.
And that's
I would say
Steuben
that- I would
County,
say-
is that correct?
I'm sorry?
You said that's Steuben?
In Steuben County, right. Interestingly, the judge called me up and asked if he could retain my services to help him. And I explained that I'm conflicted out every which way you can think about it, but I was flattered and referred him to somebody in California who's much better than I am at drawing maps and being nonpartisan.
Litigation's in Steuben, but it's the state legislature and Congress that's the subject.
And this will end up before the Court of Appeals in Albany sometime before too long, probably the end of the year. But petitioning begins for the new district elections on March 1st. So the judge won't even have his first court hearing until March 3rd. So there's zero chance that the new lines will be knocked out this year. If anything happens, it really wouldn't impact until 2024.
Venue's no accident in a rural upstate Republican county bringing the action against the Democratic Assembly and Senate and governor. So there's underlying points that people who are casual about it paying attention to would not know. Not that we're going to educate everybody on the details of litigation. But I think Josh is making his things in hand. And I had a lot of this. I reminded you of the importance I give this project. This is real grassroots democracy. So I think that I'm going to stop talking.
Well, it's important to look at because certainly we have to brace for it here in Syracuse to challenge the legislative redistricting now. We have to 2023, we've been told.
Jeff, is it possible that you could forward at least any articles you have on that?
Yeah, what I'll do, Marissa Zanfordino, who's on the call with us, she's at New York Law School with me. She's prepared an outline memo on the state challenge. So I'll send a copy to Jihan to circulate.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Do
Thank
that
you.
tomorrow.
I'll try to write something up over the weekend.
I also tell you that the real interesting test in this case is going to be that the case is now before a conservative Republican backgrounded state Supreme Court justice who's lived all his life in Steuben County. And Jerry Benjamin was right to say it was brought in Steuben. It was filed by a New York City and Chicago lawyer joined by a former Elmira Republican state senator who resigned from the redistricting commission because he didn't want to be a state employee, subjecting his financial background to be made not public, but his daughters would find out as he indicates he resigned. But what could happen here, you see, the state constitution has very has a lot of criteria, but they're not ranked or prioritized. One of them simply happens to be that a plan shall not favor or disfavor a political party or candidate. It's one of about 6 or 7 criteria. And the state would say, well, we met 3, 4, or 5 of the criteria. We couldn't do all of them, but we're not gerrymandering anyhow. And they were, the messaging on the plaintiff side is, that Republicans get 24% of the vote, but 15% of the districts. So, that messaging fight goes on and on. But key thing is that the New York State Court of Appeals for the last 50 plus years has held that in challenges to redistricting plans, even if the state plan violates a criteria, such as the unnecessary splitting of counties in the state Senate plan, as happened in 1992, the whole plan itself is fine. We're not going to upset or question the judgment of the legislators who are there to make public policy. It's not our job. And even in several cases, they've made the challenge bar so high that you have to go beyond a reasonable doubt to find fault. And even if you find that, you have to find that the legislature acted in bad faith, that it's very hard to knock out a plan. But we have a new court, albeit all Democratic Cuomo appointees, and we have new language in the state constitution that in fact wasn't there 10 years ago. So that's, I think, where the judge is going to say, well,
Mhm.
it's one of different criteria, and I'm going to order the legislature to redraw this or that. Then it goes to the appellate division. I'm not sure what the judges look like in that part of the state, but whether he's reversed or affirmed, then it goes to the Court of Appeals. And I've looked at 50 years of every case that the court has considered, and it's going to be very hard to knock out a plan, just as the Democrats challenged the Republican plans in the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years and have lost each time. So, but it's going to play out.
Very informative. Thank you. Okay. So this is all that we had on the agenda. Is there anything else before we adjourn that we should be talking about? We'll have our next meeting will be, looks like the 28th. John will, of course, as usual, circulate the email asking for things that you want to put on the agenda. So there'll be an opportunity then. Any other new business that you wanted to sneak in here before we adjourn?
No new business, but did we get another person, Marissa?
She's
Is she,
in New York Law School.
1 second.
Oh, okay.
I'm working.
Yeah, I think we have some connection issues. But we're,
Molly?
yes?
Right now?
I have talked to, or texted with Jihan, that either I or maybe Gerald or Graham would go to somebody from the Ivory Tower and see if they could make this. It's not as if we're going to get someone to talk on the show, but it might be the topic for a segment where
I'll try. If you want me to check into Ivory Tower, I can do that as well.
Okay.
I strongly think that person should be informed by an academic, but should not.
Oh, yes. Well, that academic won't be me, Gerald.
No, the academic should not be talking. If we're saying that this is a citizen activity to advance democracy at the grassroots level, which it is, then the citizens should be do the talking. But we have to make sure that they're ready, you know, not go naked into the fight, but.
Right.
I'll help.
Thank you, Gerald. We could use it. Thank you. All right. So, if that's all, do we have any motion to adjourn?
Oh, so moved.
Melody first. Anyone second?
I second.
Charles seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition? Okay, we are adjourned until February 28th, 5:30. Hopefully, and we will do what Bruce had suggested. We will check in with anyone who was not on this meeting today. It looks like Tony already had some issues with WebEx. Thanks for hanging in there with the new platform. We will figure it all out with the muting situation and all of that, okay?
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
And happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.